Before your first drone flight, it's imperative that you go through the sufficient checks to ensure your location and drone are safe. When possible, you should always undertake a location recce before your flight. Take a look around and ensure the space is suitable for the type of flight you're trying to achieve. Ensure there are no obstacles, such as people, buildings and power lines nearby, and take note of any wildlife or animals in the area. Also check the local weather forecast for your flight. Different drones can handle different strengths of wind, so ensure you're in the right conditions for your particular drone. You can find your drone's maximum wind speed in its manual. Next, you need to check the airspace regulations. As per the drone code, we're not allowed to fly near airports or in restricted airspace unless previously agreed with the local air traffic control, or ATC for short. If the airspace class is okayed for your level of professionalism, it's safe to fly. Most airspaces will be in Class G, but it's always good practice to check the Drone Assist app when you're doing your location recce to double check for any restrictions or limitations, as well as other flights in the area. Now, we have to do our pre-flight checks to ensure the drone is working as it should be. You should always check the following before every single flight. Ensure the frame of the drone doesn't have any damage. Always check the condition of the propellers before every flight. Ensure they are clean from dust or debris and do not have any chips or distortion along the edge. If you have any doubts, it's always best to replace your props for a new set. Check the motors to ensure they rotate freely with no restriction. Most drones use lithium-ion batteries. These discharge over a time, so ensure you have a fully charged battery before your flight. DJI batteries have a level indicator that you can see by pressing the power button once. Lithium-ion batteries can be unstable, so check for any swelling before use. The controllers and camera gimbal. Ensure battery power is within the safe parameters and that the switches are all in the right position. Once all of your checks are complete, it's time to power up your controller, plug in your phone and use the DJI Go 4 app. Before any flight, make sure the drone and the controller firmware are up to date, otherwise your drone may not take off. DJI drones access an up-to-date database of flight restriction zones that will not allow you to fly in restricted airspace. You may be prompted to update this database every so often. Once downloaded, you'll need to turn your drone on and connect your drone via the app. Check all of your camera settings such as photo or video mode, resolution, frame rate, shutter speed, ISO and white balance are correct before takeoff. If you're unsure what these settings refer to, we'll cover them in more detail in a later video. It's also best practice to check your SD card is formatted, as well as go through the settings for your home point as a safety feature. As default, if your drone loses connection or battery goes down under a certain level, you will safely return to the takeoff point. You can set the altitude that your drone will travel to in its return to home flight in the settings to ensure you avoid any obstacles on its path. You can also assign your return to home point to the controller. This is especially useful if you're flying from a moving object, such as a boat, to ensure your drone does not accidentally return to a point you are no longer at. Now you're ready to fly, we need to find a suitable takeoff point. Try to find somewhere flat and free from debris, as when the propellers begin to rotate, dust and small stones may damage your drone. If you cannot find anywhere suitable, we recommend using a takeoff pad or another flat surface such as a table. We can start the motors by holding the two sticks down and inwards as shown here. Then do your final visual location checks and announce loudly, taking off. The left stick of the controller, in mode 2, controls the altitude of the drone, so how high or low it is flying, as well as the direction it's facing by rotating on its axis either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Unless flying undercover, it's highly unlikely you'll ever do any damage to your drone using these controls, as you are not moving the drone any distance towards any obstacles. To take off, hold up on the left stick until the drone is approximately 10 feet off the ground and hold its position for a few seconds. For your first flight, we highly recommend that you fly in a large open space, away from any possible obstacles to ensure we have no accidents. The right stick controls the drone's pitch, so moving forwards and backwards as well as the side-to-side movements. This is how you manoeuvre your drone through the air. It's best to move the stick slightly at first to get a feel for the drone and its speed until you are fully accustomed to the controls. We have to always maintain a visual line of sight with our drone whilst it's in the air, otherwise known as VLOS, so refrain from always looking down at your phone. It's best practice to have a spotter with you who can maintain a VLOS with the drone at all times while you fly, ensuring you're communicating throughout the flight. Your battery life will show at the top of the app, and the drone will automatically return to the home point if it's running out of charge. We always recommend landing with approximately 20% battery life just to be safe. Bear in mind, the battery usage is affected by things such as air pressure, weather conditions. For example, if you fly out over water with a backwind, the drone's going to have to work harder to return flying into the wind. To land, bring your drone to a hover over your landing pad, and use the left stick to bring the drone down to the ground. Once landed, keep holding down on the left stick and the drone will stop the propellers from rotating. Now, turn off your drone before the controller, charge your battery and go for flight 2.